Imagine looking in the mirror, seeing that handsome guy staring back at you, up until somebody takes a picture, and then you're like, who the hell is this? So when the picture doesn't match up with the handsome person in the mirror, you start to question yourself, do I actually look like that? So then you're left with one question, which is more accurate, the picture or the mirror? I'm sure a situation like this has definitely happened. So in today's video, we're gonna answer that question alongside with providing you some solutions of how you can actually look better in both. So you can be handsome everywhere. That's the goal. I want you guys to be attractive everywhere, all right? So let's get into it. Now, first, let's talk about the mirror. So before the popularity of social media, literally the only way humans saw themselves was through reflection. And probably most of your life, the primary way you see yourself is through a reflection. So with that being said, we get used to seeing this reflected image of ourselves. However, what you don't know is that that is not how you actually look in real life. The mirror provides a reversed image of yourself. So what you actually see in the mirror is not how other people see or perceive you. In fact, what's crazy is that you will never, ever be able to see yourself the way other people see you unless you do this one hack, which we're gonna talk about later in the video. Now, the reason why you actually prefer yourself in the mirror versus in pictures is because of something in psychology called the mirror exposure effect. And all this means is that we have a tendency to develop a preference for something that we are familiar with. You can correlate this to dating. So for example, a girl who works in your workplace, or maybe she sees you, she doesn't think you're all that. However, the more and more time she spends around you, the more familiar she gets with you, she starts to like you more and more. This is why we see a lot of workplace relationships. This is why, just being around people over a long period of time naturally will form some sort of courtships or relationships. However, this is true with multiple areas of life, with the mirror included. So when you wake up every day, brush your teeth, look in the mirror, you see that image of yourself that you have seen for probably 20 plus years. And that is exactly why you tend to prefer that version of yourself versus any other altered version. So now let's talk about the picture or the camera. This wasn't as common, 10, 15 years ago when we had like the disposable cameras or the digital cameras, where it was more about family pictures or maybe a picture far away. And now with the popularity of selfie culture and even taking just portraits of yourself, you'll start to realize like, hey, I kind of don't like this. Now, it's not only for the reason we mentioned before, but also just the camera in itself. So you got to remember, you're viewing a 2D image of a 3D person. Us humans in person, we have shapes, we have dimensions. If you're viewing yourself from a 2D perspective, if you tend to have more rounder features, if you're not at a good body fat percentage, you're gonna look different because you're just literally smushing a 3D object within a two-dimensional sort of perspective. That is why some people look different, when you see them in person versus in pictures. Even you guys, when you come up to me, sometimes you tell me how I can look a bit different in person, but not in a negative way. It's just kind of weird seeing somebody from a 2D perspective for years on end, and then you're finally seeing them in 3D. It's kind of different, it's kind of weird. I'm not sure if you guys have ever had that sort of shocking factor whenever you meet somebody who you watched in 2D, or even if you meet a celebrity or whoever, like it's almost kind of surreal feeling. And that's because we're now moving from 2D to 3D. Also keep in mind that most pictures are not reversed like they are in the mirror. Some selfie cameras do have the mirroring effect. So for example, on Snapchat. However, try this right now. If you have an iPhone, grab your iPhone, take a selfie, and then immediately it's gonna switch to how other people perceive you and not the mirrored effect. And you're gonna be like, what the hell? This is not what I look like. But the truth is, that's exactly what you look like. Now, if you're using a DSLR camera or a camera with an interchangeable lens system, remember, the wider the angle, you're gonna have more lens distortion, which is gonna throw off your proportions. So yeah, maybe your forehead is big, maybe your nose is big, but if you have a wide angle, it's gonna make it look even bigger. It's gonna make it look even more blown out of proportion. So that is why, for portraits at least, I like to shoot with a higher focal length sort of lens, usually anywhere from 50 to 85 millimeters, but honestly, the higher the better. But if you go anything super wide angle or take a selfie really close, or even take a picture on your cell phone really close at a wide angle, just know your proportions are gonna be all thrown off because the lens is wide and is interpreting what it thinks you look like, which is not equated to the focal length of a human eyeball. Now, that was a tip a lot of people don't know, but I actually have more tips within my free ebook called the Photo Shoot Framework Guide. So if you're somebody who is looking to be more attractive on your photo shoots, learn the techniques of focal length, lighting, even posing so that you can look better, download the free guide. I'll leave a link down below in the description. It's gonna take all of 3 minutes to read. And afterwards, I'm gonna give you some practical advice on how you can start taking taking better photos each and every time, right? So be sure to check it out. It's completely free. I'll leave a link down below. Now, also when it comes to taking pictures versus the mirror, one thing that people don't realize is number one, their body language and posture, and number two, their micro expressions. So this is what the mirror is actually good for. You can practice your micro expressions and see how you actually are at a relaxed face, or when you try to smile, different things like that. It is also good for kind of seeing your angles. Even though it's in a reverse sort of way, you can still gain somewhat of a perspective of what you should be doing and how you should position maybe your body or your face whenever you are taking pictures. So for example, a lot of my students tend to have these angry, relaxed facial expressions. And so I tell them, like, practice in the mirror, find to where you can have like a slight smirk, and sometimes it will feel like you have to exaggerate more than what you're used to. But once you're able to do that, you can then correlate that to your on-camera presence, and then there should be some sort of similarities. So point is, the mirror isn't always bad. You do want to use it to practice, even with your posture and body language. You know, kind of see how you stand. Most people are unaware of how they stand up, and these little things can actually make a big difference. So you pretty much understand why you look different in the mirror versus in pictures. However, how do we fix it? How do we combine the two so that we're handsome everywhere? Number one is that you want to take more pictures and spend less time in the mirror. Understand that there are two dimensions to where you will present yourself. Most people are not looking at you through a mirror, though you can take mirror pictures, not in the selfie form, but like a portrait mirror picture, which I've also done too, and those tend to turn out pretty well. However, just take more pictures. And what I say is that you want to at least be doing photo shoots or presenting yourself, whether it be on social media, Facebook, wherever it may be, at least one time a month. If you're not doing that, you will always have this mirror exposure effect, and you will always be biased to how you look like in the mirror because you haven't seen yourself enough in the pictures. So tip number two is to get a true mirror, and this is a crazy hack. So what a true mirror is literally just a normal mirror. However, instead of the mirrored version of yourself, which most mirrors do, it sends a reflection of how you look like to other people. You can buy these just online anywhere. So you can replace all your mirrors with true mirrors if you're crazy, or you can just get a small true mirror and, you know, every now and then take a look at it and be like, yo, that's what I really look like. So that you actually flip the mirror exposure effect and you start getting more familiarity with how you actually look like. Now, I've used a true mirror before, and I would say if you're not used to seeing yourself in the reflected sort of way that other people see you, it is not for the weak. Let me just put it at that. So number three is that once you do take the pictures, you can flip them horizontally on the horizontal axis so that it replicates that of a mirror. Most editing softwares allow you to do this fairly easily. So if you really just hate the way you look in terms of that way, just flip it, and then now you're viewing the mirrored version of yourself. Also, a lot of cameras, video cameras, even on Zoom, if you're on Zoom a lot, they allow the setting to be a permanent setting. And number four, guys, you have to accept reality. Accept that you don't probably look the way you want to look like, and accept that other people view you that way. But also you need to accept that that is the norm. That is normal. Nobody's analyzing your face saying, oh, one side of your jawline is a little bit higher, viewing your asymmetries. And understand that most people, if not all people, are somewhat asymmetrical. It's okay. Asymmetry is normal. Anybody who is perfectly symmetrical almost looks like an alien. So in terms of attractiveness, we don't want extreme asymmetries, but understand that being a little asymmetrical is totally fine. So don't forget to check out my free photo shoot framework guide ebook. I'm gonna leave it linked down below. And if you guys want more help on looking more attractive in pictures, then I highly recommend you watch this video next, where I teach you some practical ways on how you can look good in every single photo. So be sure to watch that next.